Hello and welcome to this special Future Treasurer podcast episode brought to you by the Treasury Today Group. I'm Sophie Jackson, co-publisher and head of strategic content at Treasury Today.
And I'm Meg Coates, co-publisher and head of operations at Treasury Today.
In this episode, we took a sneak peek at the first Future Treasurer event held by Treasury Today and State Street Global Advisors. In an interactive afternoon featuring breakout sessions and polling of the audience, our attendees heard from speakers Lynda McGoey, Global Head of Trade Finance at General Electric, and Kim Hochfeld, Senior Managing Director and Global Head of Cash Business at State Street Global Advisors. Attendees also heard from their peers as they shared best practice advice for the future of Treasury and discussed the recent challenges of working amidst a global pandemic.
The afternoon was the first of our Future Treasurer events, which build on our phenomenal partnership with State Street Global Advisors, which began with our work together on the Women in Treasury initiative. We went across the world creating a community which was born out of the Women in Treasury platform and focused initially on questions of gender equality and female representation. Following on from this, we have expanded to look at all elements of best practice in the future of Treasury. These include a conversation around diversity and inclusion, also look at all the elements of ESG, the skill sets that will be necessary in the future of Treasury, and the qualities of leadership that future Treasurers should possess.
Lynda spoke about her career beginnings and the learning curve of working across different roles in finance. Our panellists also spoke about the career advantages of location moves, different perspectives and different cultures. Kim Hochfeld expanded on the benefits of working overseas and experiencing different cultures. The main pillars of the future of Treasury were discussed as our attendees focused in on building a roadmap for best practice. Amongst the areas discussed, top of mind was digitisation. As Treasury teams across the world have moved to remote working, were it not already front of mind, certainly adopting the best in new technology has become a real priority now. Summing up the first Future Treasurer lunch event, Kim Hochfeld had the following to say.
Sophie, I was so hugely impressed by the event, and my overwhelming feeling was how much I enjoyed sharing the space with a community of treasurers across the world and that I've never met in person, but where I felt that I really connected with people despite being on a video halfway across the world. So I would say the afternoon had a very intimate feel, and it was very interactive, in fact, much more interactive than I've experienced. And I think what really helped with that dialogue and creating that sense of community was the ability to see people's faces and their reactions and gauge that across the camera, whereas normally we're set somewhat apart on a stage or set a little bit apart from our audience when we're talking. So in this particular instance, I think actually having this as a virtual event was hugely helpful. I also laughed at the breakout sessions where you gave us some very time-defined slots where we were able to discuss different topics. And I think of how in real life, how difficult it is to get people to stop talking and come back into the room at a certain time. Whereas on the Zoom call, the discussion just ended and you were forced back into the room. So it does help with the timing management aspect of any event.
Absolutely, yes, of course, for us on a control perspective, having people in their well-organised Zoom boxes on screen is much easier to move around. But for me, what was amazing as well was to see how somehow the suspension of disbelief happens, and we all really did feel like we were together on that day. And we're really excited to see where we take this next as we start to define these pillars of the future of Treasury and think about what best practice that involves diversity and inclusion for the strategic treasurers of the future looks like. So big thank you to you for taking part with us and making it possible on the day. So what were some of the main sort of resonant topics for you from that day? We heard a lot from our audience there around the New York City area about things that are top of mind for them. What were some of your major takeaways around the things that were on their minds that day?
So clearly, gender diversity is still one very important pillar of the future treasurer. But for me, where the debate has actually evolved in the last few months, unsurprisingly, is around the whole Black Lives Matter movement. And it's clear to me that we cannot just think of progress in terms of gender diversity, but also in terms of ethnic diversity. So this is a theme that is very much at the forefront on our agendas here at SSGA. And certainly, it's clear that it's on the forefront of the corporate treasurer's agenda too. So we look forward to seeing progress on that front evolve over the coming months and years. But that was clearly a new theme that came out amongst the audience.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been so heartening to see this happening across the world. I mean, we're obviously really supportive of the movement, and it was great to see both yourselves and Lynda's organisations mentioning your support too. And hopefully this can become one of the key elements that we're all speaking about as we're having conversations across the world, and top of mind for corporates everywhere. So thank you so much for that. Was there any other thematics that resonated for you on the day, or anything that you felt were challenges of some of those treasurers there that might be of relevance for a wider audience?
I think the other theme I would draw out of the day, which definitely stayed with me, were comments that Lynda and I were making around how we motivate and manage teams. And I think the comment that she made around being humble in order to bring the best out of our colleagues and our teammates was one that has really stayed with me ever since the event. And it's something that I always aspire to. And I hope that I achieve in my management style. But that's something that I do believe most leaders should be working towards if they're not already there, in terms of interacting and motivating their team.
A big thank you to all our attendees at this first Future Treasurer installation. Thank you to our panellists Kim Hochfeld and Lynda McGoey, and to our partner State Street Global Advisors, as well as everyone in our North America community who joined us on the day.
And thank you to you all for listening. To hear more of our podcast episodes and to discover all our other audio content, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from.